is probate. Yeah. So probate is one of those things that we just don't want to, because we've, successfully, I think attorneys, we've tried to make it so that probate is just, that's a dirty word. So we try to avoid probate at all costs. So we do living trusts, we do our fancy wills, we do everything to try to avoid probate because it's this big court process. But what you need to know about probate is just a series, it's just a body of law that controls anything to do with somebody that is incapacitated, or we call that it's considered incompetent. Okay. So if somebody is incompetent, that would be it could be by age, or it could be because they have mental incompetency or whatever. So like a minor, like a 15-year-old kid, legally incompetent. Sorry, guys, those of you 15-year-olds listening to this, that doesn't mean you're like a clown or just a lunatic or whatever. It just means you're legally incompetent, which means making a contract is not going to happen because it's not going to be legally binding. There are some exceptions, like if it's for like a necessity or something like that, but legal contracts can't be formed by an incompetent person. So if you're under 18, you're technically legally incompetent, and you could be declared incompetent because of your inability to function or to process information, and a doctor may declare you incompetent, that type of thing. Okay. So let's say, for example, that your mom and dad passed away, and now you are the successor trustee. If you're the successor trustee, I've told you many, many times on this show that the successor trustee's job is to provide notification to all the beneficiaries that, hey, here are the terms of the trust. You're a beneficiary. You're going to get some money, that type of thing. And that's a big part of the job. Another really big part of the job, the major part of the job, is what is called marshaling the assets. That's a super cool word. It's not just like a name of a hardware store. It's not like Marshall Dillon, but marshaling the assets is the fancy term that we use for figuring out what is in the estate. So mom and dad passed away. What did they have? Did they have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate? Did they have rental property? Did they have intellectual property like patents, trademarks, copyrights, trust deeds? Do people owe them money? Do they have a car, bank accounts, clothing, jewelry, all that stuff? Everything that somebody owns that has some type of value is considered their estate. And I know with a trust, we say trust or estate. Well, the trust estate, we're just saying your estate is your stuff. You have stuff that has value. You have stuff that has sentimental value, but no cash value. It's just all of your stuff. As the successor trustee, if you step up and after your mom and dad die, for example, you are named as successor trustee. If you raise your hand and say, I will do as they asked me to, because I will act as the successor trustee, you're in it, man. You are in it, and you've got to do it right. You are a fiduciary. You have to then, you have to act as a fiduciary, which means you can only do what is in the best interest of the beneficiaries. And that means you're protecting the principle of that trust. Okay. So if you take it from that standpoint, you're not going to go and do a $100,000 remodel hoping that you're going to get another 100 grand, because by the time you end the remodel, the market may have fell apart. Okay. You're going to be doing something that's more reasonable. What I want to talk about today specifically is, what is this accounting thing? Because under the California Probate Code, which, yes, controls everything to do with people that are incompetent or deceased. Okay. So those are minors, incompetents, or dead people. That's probate court. It's just one of the divisions of the California Superior Court. It's not like the criminal division where it's the people versus the bad person. It's not family court where it's families blowing up. It's not civil court where people are suing each other. It's probate court. It is dealing with people who are incompetent or dead. So we're dealing with deceased person's stuff. You, as the successor trustee, are required to account. That means you got to figure out what is in the estate, tell the beneficiaries what it is. Now, that's not immediately, that's after you account. And then you have to do the distributions. Okay. It may take 9 months. It may take a year or 2 or 3. Doesn't matter. You have to act reasonably. There may be rental property. There may be long-term contracts. These different things that sometimes it takes a long time to liquidate. I'm working with a trust where we have been trying to sell a piece of property for over a year. We've had it in escrow 3 times, and now it's on hold again. Are the beneficiaries happy? Well, they're like, really? What happened with the good real estate market? I thought things sold like lightning. Well, it depends on the property. So sometimes you get stuck, and that's just the way it is. But the job of the successor trustee is to account for every dollar that is spent. Is it spent on the trustee traveling back and forth because they have to go meet with the attorney? Is it to, account for the money that was paid for utilities, for rent, for, for repairs, for professionals, for appraisals? All those things get accounted for. What I keep seeing, and I don't mind that it's this way. I mean, I am not lamenting my job. My job as the attorney to represent trustees is to help you do your job. And we have lots of clients that haven't done their job for 10 years. They've been the successor trustee for 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years and never done their job right. And that's not because they're a fool or because they're bad-willed or trying to do it wrong. They just don't know their job. Once you take over somebody's financial affairs and they're deceased, you are going to have to act in a reasonable way according to the probate code. This accounting that we want to talk about today, and I'm going to get a little detailed in this, but I want you to understand, if you are a successor trustee, this is for you to listen to. Okay. If you're going to be a successor trustee, this is for you to listen to. If you are a beneficiary and you're waiting patiently or impatiently for your proceeds from from whatever your mom and dad left you, we have to do the accounting first. So I'm going to make it so that it is appropriate for all of you guys. Everybody needs to know what's going on. I was in court this morning talking to an attorney that I'm dealing with, and we had kind of a conversation like, this is kind of what happens, right? This is our job as lawyers, is people kind of get upset with each other because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what assets are available. They did get some money. They're not sure if they got all their money. They thought there was more money. And the attorney, the comment he made to me, he said, it doesn't matter what you do as a trustee, the accounting is always wrong. And I thought that was a very interesting comment because it's true. The beneficiaries are always going to look at the accounting, which we're going to talk about in detail what that means. They always look at the accounting and say, this can't be right. This can't be right. There was something else. How many times, and if you've been in that situation, you look at it and go, wait a minute. I thought dad had a safe. And I thought there was some stuff in the safe because I remember him telling me Christmas 10 years ago. I remember dad telling me like 10 years ago that he had a safe and that there was some silver coins in that safe. So where are they? Well, I remember, gosh, my birthday when I was 30 and I'm 63. And when I was 30, I remember my dad saying, yep, this tool is for you, my friend. And, and there it was on the tool bench. And then, so I would expect now, 20 or 30 years later, that tool's still there for me, right? Probably not. So a lot of things we have these expectations maybe of, what's there and what's not, but we have to now figure out this accounting. So the beneficiary is always going to look at it and say, wow, this is kind of weird. What about this? What about that? So that's what we want to be going into and talking about. The accounting is really going to be accounting for every dollar, the pennies and assets and all that. To help you with that, I am all over that. 855-500-TRUST. I can help you be a good trustee. I can help you be a good beneficiary and get the money you're entitled to, account for the money you're entitled to. We'll be right back here on The Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is Faith-Based Investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time, and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. education, learn the truth about your own investment mix, then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there, filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQLaw.com.
It's getting
Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQLaw.com, 855-500.
All right. So we are here talking about accounting. This is the attorney Gary Quackenbush. For the past 3 decades of my career, we've been dealing with this stuff. And I thought, really, it's time to continue sharing and get a little more deep. I know those of you that have been listening to my show we've been on for me personally, I've actually had the show myself we're celebrating exactly a year. Before that, I was on with Marty Schneider for 15 years with the Word on Wealth. Now it's the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. So what we've been doing is trying to help you guys understand estate planning and trust administration. Why am I doing that? My goal as a law firm, ever since I started my firm 30 years ago, was to provide essential legal services simply, affordably. And I'm trying to provide, and I think we've been really successful in doing that, providing services for people. My son had told me, he says, Dad, you provide legal representation for regular people. And I thought, well, does that oversimplify it? And no, that's exactly what we're doing. We're providing legal services. I mean, I have friends that are in the same industry as me that have been doing it about as long as I have, that are charging. The highest I've heard so far was an attorney that does exactly the same thing I do, that has not quite as much experience, and he is $1,200 an hour. A friend of mine worked at one of the big firms downtown they have offices all over the world. He was $895 an hour when he retired about 5 years ago. So it's not uncommon if you have big firms or fancy attorneys where they're charging you, $700, $800, $900 an hour, $1,200 an hour. To me, that is absolutely nauseating. That's just crazy. It is way, 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 way more than they should be charging. But They deal
Sounds
with,
like that's not how you operate, Gary.
well, if they just deal with people that have a lot of money. I mean, it doesn't make them any smarter or do any better of a job. It's just, anyway. So, and not to bash them, I mean, more power to them, man. If you can find clients that'll pay you $1,200 an hour, but I don't know. I've had attorneys in my life that have helped me, and I've loved and appreciated what they did for me. I'm working on an estate now that I have another attorney. I've got several attorneys. We're doing some litigation. I have an attorney friend of mine that's he's basically associated counsel with me. So I like attorneys, and I like them, because I'm a regular person and I need help sometimes. So that's the thing with these accountings, is I want you guys to understand it. What I'm seeing is a lot of people need help with the accounting. And if you wait too long, you end up on the wrong side of a lawsuit in probate court. So the way it works is, for example, let's say that you took over as, either you or your brother or whatever. Let's say, let's make it so that it's not all your fault. So, okay. So let's take it from the perspective of the beneficiary. So you're a beneficiary and your parents died, and it's been, 6 or 8 months, and you tell your brother, who's the, what's going on? Why don't I haven't heard anything? Oh, are you the trustee? And he says, yeah, I'm the trustee. Mom and dad appointed me as trustee. Why? What's your problem? Well, I don't know anything about the trust. I mean, I haven't received a copy yet. And he says, oh, well, let me send it to you. And he sends you an email. Okay. Well, that's a start, but it's not really what's required under the California probate code. What he's supposed to do is send you an official copy of the terms of the trust, and which means also, and or a copy of the trust. And they give you a specific notification that says, be aware that when you receive this notification, you have 120 days to object to the terms of the trust. And if you fail to object within 120 days, then you can never object to the terms of the trust. So it gives you that right. So it's that probate code notification that goes out to all the beneficiaries, and there's other people that are entitled to notice as well. So then your brother finally gets that information out to you, and you say, hey, what about dad's bank accounts? What about his investment accounts? What about his real property, that rental house he had? What is all that worth? And your brother says, just leave me alone. I'm really busy. I've got, things going on in my life, and I've got trouble and whatever. And then you just, you say, well, let me know if I can help, or, let me know when you're going to do this. Well, once you get tired of that, the law actually requires, if you basically demanded an accounting, California probate code says, if you demand an accounting, basically in writing, you request an accounting, you say, hey, brother, I want an accounting. Now you got to be careful. Okay. Because if you demand an accounting within 60 days, your brother has to provide it. If it's reasonable, the request for the accounting, they will get it to you within 60 days. And that's just part of their job. Now, what I've seen happen is I had one person that this particular person was really aggressive and was demanding an accounting, and then 3 or 4 months later demanded another one, and 3 or 4 months later demanded another one. It was a very complicated estate. There's a lot going on. And she made this demand for an accounting, and she got one. But she got the accounting with a bill from the accountant for $12,000 and attorney's fees of $4,000 because she demanded it within 60 days and basically said, if you don't get it to me in 60 days, I'm going to file a lawsuit against you, which is her right. But they said, fine, we'll get it done. They had to do it in a big hurry. It was very expensive accounting. So she got a bill for $16,000, and they filed the accounting with the court, also with a petition to make her pay the $16,000 out of her share. All right. So that's kind of the extreme. If you demand an accounting and you're not reasonable about it, and you're really pushing and things really aren't happening, as fast as you want them to, but they're happening in a reasonable time, you could get saddled as a beneficiary. You could get saddled with the accounting fees and the attorney's fees related to the accounting out of your distributive share, the amount that you would have gotten. So it's like, you got to be reasonable, but the successor trustee is required to give you an accounting within 60 days. So the way that typically goes is, because we're talking, the story is you're the beneficiary, right? That's us. So you're the beneficiary. You said, hey, I want an accounting. And I'm really, it's been a long time. Mom and dad died a year ago. I want an accounting, and I want it within 60 days. Okay. So if they don't provide it within 60 days, what do? You call them again and say, hey, what is going on? Well, I get a little suspicious if you've been asking for accountings and you've written them letters and emails and they're ignoring you. I get a little suspicious. Like, is the successor trustee doing their job? What are they doing with the money? Is it being appropriately handled? Are there investments that are now in the free fall, loss of the market? What's going on? That's when the next step is to go and you file a petition under probate code 17200. Is 17,200 some subsections. But you get a petition in probate court where you're asking the judge saying, Judge, I asked for an accounting and I want an accounting. I demand an accounting. And the trustee's not doing their job. They didn't send me the probate code notification within 60 days of the date of death, which is what they were supposed to do. I don't see that the will was deposited with the California probate code within 30 days of the date of death, which their trustee is required to do. I tried to ask the trustee for an inventory, like what's in the estate, what's happening with the rental property. He's been totally ignoring me. I have no choice but now to go to court. So I want two things, or I want four things. I want one is I want the accounting and I'm entitled to it. And this is a reasonable request. Number two, I want the trustee to not be the trustee anymore because I don't trust him. He's not handling the money properly. He's never told me where it is. He's doing secret things. I don't like that. So I want him removed as trustee, which means you want the next person in line typically, or maybe you want yourself, but if there's other people in line ahead of you, the judge is likely not going to put you in. They're going to put the next person in line, but at least you're getting rid of the offending party. The third thing is if the trustee is acting badly, you're looking at it going, oh my gosh, they're doing things that they're not supposed to. I'm not happy with this at all, at all. You can request that they get sanctioned. So any of your attorney's fees as a beneficiary trying to compel the accounting can be paid for out of that successor trustee's distributive share, or potentially a reduction in their own fees, or actually make it so the successor trustee doesn't get paid. Okay. And then the fourth thing, you could request damages if there's any loss. So if the trustee's actions were unreasonable and the way he did his thing was unreasonable, wasted money, gave things away that he shouldn't have, those things can all be charged to the successor trustee. And why does that happen? So if you're a beneficiary and you're forcing that, if you're entitled to it, you're entitled to it. If you're the successor trustee and that's being enforced against you, or you're wondering what you should be doing in your job, my suggestion is find out what you're supposed to be doing. As a successor trustee, you won't know unless you've done it before. And I think maybe, of all of my estate planning clients, I probably have maybe 1 in 100 has been a successor trustee, maybe 1 in 200 have been a successor trustee. All of the cases, obviously, I'm working where we're fighting about an accounting. Obviously, the successor trustee didn't know what they're doing. That's why we're in the fight. But patience is one thing, but if you wait too long, it's no longer patience. It's not wise, because if you wait too long for the trustee to do their job, the real estate market is going up, it's going down. The financial markets are going up, they're going down. That successor trustee, you as beneficiary are entitled to compel that trustee to do his job and to do it right. So if he's managing the money himself, like managing, like buying and selling investments and all that, I think I would really question that and say, hey, successor trustee, don't do that. Because here's the thing. If you're a successor trustee and you're not a professional at what you're doing, like moving investments around, then you need to hire a professional. Okay, if there are legal things that need to be done, like legal things like creating deeds, transfer documents, contracts, unless you're a lawyer, you can't be doing that under California law. You need to hire a lawyer. Look, it's not your money. It's the money of the people that passed away. It's mom and dad's money. That money is in trust, and that money is there to use to hire the investment professional, to hire the tax professional, to hire the attorney, to get a professional accounting done. It's not stuff that you need to do. And yes, I know the kind of the cheaper you go on things, the more money you're going to get ultimately, but it's not your money. Your job is to do the accounting right and get everything accounted for. So I always recommend that you get a professional involved at every point of the way, and you shop for professionals. If you don't like them because they say they're $1,200 an hour, then just kind of say, thank you very much. That's so cool. You can make that much money, but not from me, and get somebody that's reasonable. If you want me to help you, I'm happy to talk to you about it. And I'll tell you, what it would cost and all that kind of stuff. We do this a lot. I have a team. You'll love them. My number is 855-500-TRUST, 855-500-TRUST. If you're a beneficiary and you need help figuring out what's going on or getting the amount that your mom and dad left you, let's talk about it. If you're a trustee and you're struggling to figure out what you need to do, you're having trouble with beneficiaries or whatever, we can help on both sides of it. So we've done all of that. Our goal is to help people get the legal help that they need to get all the work done. I mean, that's our job. That's why we're doing a radio show and this stuff, to teach you about it so that we can get people their inheritance like they're supposed to get, and to get the trustees so they're doing their job, because it's a big job. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the probate court actions. Like, what does the accounting actually look like? Coming up next on The Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect.
Your guest, Mike Manfredi, just called in.
500-TRUST. GQLaw.com. Talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
Go on.
All right, welcome to the show. This is Gary Quackenbush here on The Word on Wealth, and we have a very special guest. Have you ever wondered, we're in a really interesting real estate market now. Everybody knows, it's going up, it's going down. Is it in a free fall? Should we buy houses? Should we sell houses? What is the deal? And then there are conventional ways. You think, okay, I think I'm going to sell my house. I'm just going to sit on the front lawn with a sign, and I'm going to swing the sign back and forth that says, my house is for sale. I'm going to stand there and just wait until somebody buys my house. Or I could hire a real estate professional, or we could find out some other way. And I have with me a real estate professional. His name is Michael Manfredi. If you want to get a hold of him, he works for Harcourt's Auctions, and he's going to talk to us about a very interesting way to sell homes, which I found fascinating. I loved it. I did the research on him, and Mike and I have talked, and he's agreed to talk to our listeners today. Michael, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you, Gary?
Doing great. Thanks for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. So I think what would be the best thing, and I know you've done this before on the radio because you are the man and you are all over the place. So Mike, tell us about what you do and how you get involved with, I think start out with like sellers and talk about the uniqueness of what you do to help people with buying and selling homes.
Sure. Well, we all know that the market has changed and we're not in that really rich, frothy area for selling a home anymore like we were in 2020 and 21, where like you described, just putting a sign out front and being able to sell a home, it takes a bit more nowadays to get the phones ringing in. So, let's start by talking about selling and then we'll talk a little bit about buying too. But our company has been around for over 100 years doing something that's very unique. And we are a real estate company, but we are also an auction company. So we combine both of those things together and give our sellers the option to either list their home traditionally, just like every other real estate agent and broker in the market, or to take that listing and enhance it with our auction, our live auction platform. And we have had a great amount of success, certainly over the last 100 years all over the world. But since 2014, Harcourts came here to North America and started in San Diego, and we have sold almost 2,000 homes here on the West Coast with a 91% success rate in this auction program. And it's actually a very simple process. So if you have any kind of experience with auction or you've seen an auction like a listing on eBay or anything that's sold by auction, then you would know that auctions start with a low bid to start price and not a high listing price. So that is the basic difference with our listings, which are published on the MLS, just like a traditional listing. And that is how we get a lot of exposure for a property that otherwise would have been listed at a higher listing price and probably would have excluded a good portion of the marketplace. So, for instance, if you're looking at one of our listings that's published on the MLS or anywhere on the internet, like every other listing, the first thing you're going to notice is that it looks like a really great value. So you're probably going to investigate it a little bit more, and then you're going to read through that this is a live auction process with a specific date that the property will go to live auction. So that creates a little bit of urgency for our sellers, and it really avoids the whole traditional listing process of starting at a high price and then staying on the market, sometimes indefinitely, and not really having any urgency to go and see that home and try to make a deal on that home. Okay. So that's it basically on how it starts. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that are going on right now in the marketplace and some of the challenges that sellers have and how we can alleviate some of those problems and give them a hand and actually create a market for their home. First of all, I've been told by many listing agents, even agents outside of Harcourts, of course, that it takes real talent to sell a home these days. It takes a lot of effort. And there is just not a lot of traffic at open houses, and there are not a lot of people calling on listings. So this is the type of market where something like our auction process really takes off and really shines. If you are listing your home on the market, or if you had your home listed on the market and you didn't get offers, and you really need to sell the home, and you need to expose it in this market, then you will need to at least take your listing price, and we see this all the time, and reduce it, or go to an auction process where you start at a lower price to get interest. Now, the reason why I like the second option a lot better is because if you start off with your listing price high, and then you reduce the price, you really give the buyer a chance to sit on their hands and wait and see what happens next. It really is the opposite of creating urgency for that property. And that's exactly what's going on. And it reduces the reputation of the property because people think, well, why is the price coming down? Why didn't they give me a fair deal right off the bat? Mm-hmm. So we're going to avoid all of that by starting with a low listing price. And here's how it works. let's say that you feel that the market price for your home, a fair market price that you would accept, is about $1 million. Okay, I'm sure we know a lot of homes in that price range here in San Diego.
Yeah, certainly.
So you're probably right. So you're probably going to want to list it with a real estate professional a little bit higher than $1 million, maybe at $1.1 million or $1.2 million, because the idea is that you don't want to leave any money on the table, so to speak, and you want to test the market and see where the offers come in. But what you're really doing now is you're really capping the price, and you're telling the marketplace what price they don't have to pay for the home, because you've already told them we're listed now at 1.1 million. So people are going to offer less than 1.1 million, right? They're going to try to get a deal on the home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's contrast that with the way I would list this during the auction process. I would take that home, advertise it in the MLS and on the internet as a live auction with a certain date coming up in the future in about 30 days where we are going to sell that home, create urgency, and put it as a bid to start price of about $795,000. Now think about people that buy homes and how they buy homes nowadays. 99% of the time they do it on the internet, and they're looking at picture and price, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be clicking through hundreds of pictures, and they're going to be looking at the picture of the house, the price, and clicking past. Now, when they come to our listing, their brain is going to register that this looks like a much better value at $795 than everything else that they've been looking at, right? This house is $1 million house, but it's listed at $795.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, they want to come and see the house, or they want to at least inquire about the house. So here's the formula for success. It's eyeballs equals interest, which equals offers. So eyeballs, obviously exposure on the internet, on the MLS, websites like Zillow, right? We need to get as many people to see the property as possible. Auction addresses that with this low bid to start price. It's just naturally going to funnel everyone to our listing as opposed to any comparable listing. And then interest is going to be that phone call that we need, a showing, attending open houses, a call from the buyer's agent, and really starting to engage that property and get involved and get some of the due diligence done. And then finally, if we get them through that second stage, we can escort them right into the last stage, which is writing an offer. So in order to get them to that last stage, I have to at least get them to the first stage. So here's something that I'd love to do. If you have a couple of more minutes for me, I'd love to take you right online
2 minutes
to one of our auction listings that's currently on the market, as opposed to a traditional listing from another brokerage firm, and see exactly what I'm talking about and how we're getting the eyeballs and we're getting all the traffic for that specific property compared to something comparable in the city.
Okay.
So
So
you have
what
time for that?
Yeah. So yes, I do definitely. So I'm going to have you. We're going to come up with a break really quick, but then when we get back, we're going to do that. But first of all, I want to know what's the easiest way if people want to get a hold of you, Mike. What's the best way?
I pick up my phone all the time. I'm at 760-208-9651.
Okay. So we got that 760-208-9651. Okay. That's the easiest way.
Right.
And you can look up Michael Manfredi, Manfredi, just like it sounds. You can look him up. You can find him. Man, he's all over the place. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that, because I want people to be able to call you too, because we do get, we get a lot of people that want something. They have a house to be sold. I've got successor trustees that have houses and they're trying to figure out how to get it sold. And I think that's probably one of the ideal ways, especially with, you don't live there, you're a successor trustee, you've got this home to sell. What's the best way to get a higher price? You don't even know what it's worth because you didn't live there. You don't even know all the details of the house. Call Michael Manfredi at 760-208-9651. So when we, what we're going to do is coming up next here on the Word on Wealth. I've got some more questions for Michael, but he's going to give us an example of like how it actually works. And it's fascinating. It's got his website and the different YouTube videos that I've watched of this sale process. It's actually fascinating for buyers and sellers to get a good price and the house actually moves instead of sitting. And in today's market, it's just brilliant idea on the way to buy and sell homes. So we're coming up next. Again, we've got Michael Manfredi, 9651. Coming up next, we're going to have an awesome explanation of how the auction process works. We'll be right back.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
We've talked a long time about estate administration. So what is that? And why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. They'll have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary.
Oil.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
All right, friends, welcome to the Word on Wealth. Thank you for listening along today. We've got a real estate expert on the on our show with us today. Michael Manfredi is a realtor. His number is 760-208-9651. One more time, 760-208-9651. Michael Manfredi, he's explaining to us a great process that they have done thousands of times on the West Coast and in Southern California on selling homes, especially when the market isn't just like burning hot where people are just throwing buckets of cash on the front lawn and you take it and give them the title. The market is more, it's just changing. And this is a way that for decades, that Harcourts has been able to sell properties. And Michael's going to walk us through the process so that we can understand how it works and why it is a great advantageous way to sell or even buy properties. Thank you, Michael. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Gary. So this is actually going to be a little bit fun for us if you're sitting in front of a computer, and if not, I'll narrate, but most of the time people will monitor listings if they're a buyer on Zillow, because Zillow is the biggest real estate website, consumer-facing website, and it really has a lot of great, useful information, and they even have their own estimate of value, which a lot of people pay attention to. So as a realtor, I like to see what that is as well. So I've already told you that our auction process works really well for properties that, for whatever reason, were on the market in a traditional listing manner and didn't sell. So they'll come to us and they'll try auction, and we've had great success with that. However, some people are choosing this auction process over the traditional listing process right out of the gate. And the reason for that is they can see the value in getting more attention, especially in a situation like the one I'm going to describe to you right now. We have a current listing here in San Diego. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo. The address is 1501 Front Street, Unit 422 in San Diego. Now, this is an auction listing. If you go onto Zillow, or if you look that address up in Google, it'll pull up the Zillow page for you. And you'll see that it's listed at $600,000. And the estimate that Zillow has for the value of this property is $713,000. So that becomes pretty interesting to buyers right off the bat. But you have to remember now, this is an auction listing. So as you scroll down to get more information, you'll see in the description, it says live auction, bidding to start from $600,000. And then, of course, the property description comes in after that. This particular property is located in Little Italy. So people are starting to say, or potential buyers are starting to say, wow, $600,000, 2-bedroom condo in Little Italy. This is something I'm very interested in as compared to other 2-bedroom condos that are at the same price. Now, here's what I want you to really pay attention to. Right underneath the description, it says 18 days on Zillow, and look at the number of views, 6,894 views and 230 saves. That is a lot of attention for a property. Now, I've already picked a comparable property here in San Diego that I want to compare those numbers to. So this is a traditional listing by another firm. I don't know who the agent is. I just pulled this up because it's basically a comparable property. It's in San Diego, 8522 Summerdale Road, apartment 57. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo listed at $599. And if you scroll down, now this is a traditional listing with another broker. This is not an auction listing. But if you scroll down, you'll see that it's 18 days on Zillow. So exactly the same amount of time exposed to the MLS and to the internet. And look at the difference. The views are 1,541. The saves are 54 saves. So by comparison, a comparable property that has less than 1/3 the amount of attention of the internet right now. Going back to what I said earlier, eyeballs equals interest equals offers. So obviously, with almost 7,000 people viewing this property in the first 18 days, I think we're probably going to have this one in escrow before the auction date. And don't forget, in the description, it will tell them that there is a specific date coming, looming in the background. So if they don't get out there to see this property right away, if they don't make it a priority to see this property, then they're going to miss their chance, or they're going to have to compete with other people live on auction day. So my advice would be to go see it right away and to get an offer into the listing agent right away. Now, one of the other things about auction properties that make them very different than traditional listings is when they go on live, when they go live on the internet or live on the MLS, we usually do not have any showings of that property until a few days after, or maybe the first weekend coming up. And then the first showings are always at the first open house. So we will let the suspense build, we'll let the tension build, and we'll use that emotion and we'll get everyone there at the same time, maybe 12 o'clock on Saturday for an hour. And our open houses are packed with people. There is a line out the door. This is all very important in the market that we have now, because people are starting to understand, even though we were spoiled for a couple of years, that you just can't put a sign out there and get attention anymore. And you can even list at a low price and still not get as much engagement with the property as you can with a process like this. So I'm going to tell you about some of the success we've had. Of course, you can always go to harcourtsauctions.com and you can click on the market and see the properties we have listed all over North America, New York, San Francisco, and of course, all over San Diego. And you can also go to recent success, which is another tab that has case studies like, for instance, 2428 La Costa Ave in Carlsbad, which sold at auction in less than 30 days for $1.3 million. after being on the market for 6 months with 3 other brokerage firms. We came in and sold it in 30 days. And here's another one for you in La Jolla, 214 Avenida Cortez in La Jolla, sold at $4.4 million in less than 30 days after 8 months on the market with a big firm, Berkshire Hathaway. I can give you literally hundreds of these case studies. So if you need to sell a property and you want to get a fair market price for this property, and you want to have control and leverage over the process, then this auction process is for you. One last thing I want to mention about how an auction works and what to look for in an auction process. As a seller, something that's very important to you about this is a reserve auction. And if you know anything about auctions, a reserve auction is the type of auction where the seller has a minimum price that they will accept, and it's not disclosed to any of the buyers. All of our auctions are reserve auctions. So the seller is never forced to take a low price, and they are always in control and always have the final say on the selling price.
And you'd mentioned to me before, and this was interesting to me, is that sometimes you get this auction process set up and you end up even selling the property before it even gets to auction. And also you had mentioned that sometimes there is like let's say you go through the auction process, somebody comes in and they bid and they're the high bidder. And so you'd say, okay, fine, this guy wins the auction, but then something happens, like they don't qualify or there's some issue, then you still get people that will buy even after the auction. Is that a fair statement? Because that's the thing with, I mean, this is new for a lot of people. It was new for me when we first talked about it, and we're pretty much out of time, but it seems like there are still things that happen that are kind of like in every home sale. Sometimes everything's going through fine, but then the sale falls out. That doesn't mean you start all over the auction. You can still move forward with the sale even after the auction. Is that all accurate?
Yes, you're almost accurate on all of that. I will say there are 3 phases to this auction process. One is prior to auction. The second is on auction day. And then the third is after auction day.
Right.
So prior to auction is about a month. We're advertising the property at this low bid to start price for about 4 weeks, MLS and on the internet. During that time, about 80% of these properties go right into escrow. We get an offer that's acceptable by the seller. However, about 10% of them don't go into escrow, and they actually go to a live auction. And the auctions are very exciting and very emotional and completely transparent. For a buyer, it is the best way to buy a home because you can see your competition and you know where the prices are going. And then if for some reason you don't get enough action or you don't get a high enough offer where the seller is pleased in accepting that offer, then we have the after auction phase where the property is continued on the market, and there are different things that we do to the property at that point in order to continue to work with all the interest that we've gathered with the pre-auction phases, numbers 1 and 2.
All right. So I think the takeaway from this for our listeners is this is something that if you haven't heard of this process and you're trying to sell a home, now's the time to figure out this process. Michael is the expert at it. 760-208-9651, 760-208-9651. That's Michael Manfredi. He can tell you how the auction process works. I mean, to me, it's fascinating. If I'm selling a home, I'm calling Michael, like, hey, how do we get this set up? And he'll talk you through it, explain how that works. We are here on the Word on Wealth every weekday. We'll be back tomorrow with John Burroughs, who's going to talk to us about mortgages. Coincidentally, Michael talked to us about how to sell a house. And now we're going to talk to you guys all tomorrow with John Burroughs on how to get your mortgage, how to get that set up. And basically you could get it all queued up and set up and ready to go if you're going to be a buyer at one of Michael's auctions. So that's coming up tomorrow on the Word on Wealth. Michael, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. Hopefully you get some calls, and I really appreciate your expertise. Thanks for being here.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995 with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help you preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views.
Good show.
Thanks, Noah.
Make sure you reach out.